And we're back on the Mizell show.
We literally just stared at each other to see who's going to talk first.
We have a few episodes now, and I think we're getting
know
a little bit of traction. And this is a first for us. We are now like recapping an older episode and doing like a part 2 of it.
Yeah, episode 11
Yes.
is Being Single Doesn't Have to Suck. And now we did an interview with Joya Matthews. Sorry,
Joya Matthews.
Say
yeah.
her maiden name. Sorry.
Nope.
And she actually, not to like spill it all, we mentioned her in Being Single Doesn't Have to Suck, not by name, but by story. And we got to interview her and just
do a life catch up, and then also
being the transition.
Yes.
And now she's married, but I'm not going to spill it all.
Don't spill it all.
You got to listen to it.
Listen to it.
Okay?
Listen to Joya's message. And it's an exciting episode that we were able to like recap another one. And it was good.
And we're so grateful for Joya and her authenticity and really a super vulnerable topic.
Yeah, very vulnerable.
Super vulnerable topic. And she's a very private person, which she mentions in the interview.
But she drops some real nuggets.
She does. Some hard knowledge that I think some people need to get the wax out of their ear. Go get your Q-tip, get a little out of your ENT before you listen to this one.
Maybe grab a Kleenex, because it might be you that
Oh,
needs to know this.
I mean, I didn't say that.
Perfect. Welcome to the Mizell Show.
An inspiration for a new generation.
Hi, I'm Alanna Mizell, a loving mother of 2, a devoted wife to Steven, and an entrepreneur helping women realize their dreams and potential.
And I'm Steven Mizell, caring father of 2, a devoted husband to Alanna, and a driving force to help young men prepare for life after college football.
And if that wasn't enough, we're a biracial couple.
She was raised in the North, but I was raised in the South.
The only thing normal about our lives, who am I kidding? It's never normal around here. Join us for the Mizell Show.
Right now.
I'm Joya. I live in Washington, D.C. With my husband, Thomas. I work for the mayor's office. I'm the associate director of the mayor's office on women's policy and initiatives. So I really love the work that I do. I love living in D.C. Alanna and I went to the University of Memphis, as the 2 of you did. And I met Alanna. Was it through Frosh Camp?
Yeah.
Yes. We were counselors together, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Frosh Camp, a place for friends. And that's really true, because that's where I met Alanna, and you were just a ball of fun. I think we just clicked instantly, and you were funny and just easygoing. And so it was a really natural connection. So, and we are still friends to this day.
We don't take anything quite too seriously.
No.
Not at all.
Which is really agitating to everybody trying to lead Frosh Camp, but we had a great time.
Yeah. So, and the kids loved us. So,
right. Yeah. I mean, we did our job. It's fine. Whatever. Okay. So, big part of your story is you moved to DC. Did you get engaged before you moved to DC or after?
Which time?
The first time. Okay. I was like, unless I don't know about one, which is totally possible.
No. Just so only been engaged twice. So the first time, was before DC.
Okay.
And actually, the ending of that relationship kind of sparked my move to DC. I think when that relationship ended, I was like, I'm sure I might get into that a little more later. But when that relationship ended, I think I just felt a sense of freedom, and it was just like, where do I want to be? I had only visited DC one time in my entire life, and I was like, DC, I'm moving to DC. Nobody believed me. My friends, my family, they were like, okay, girl. And then I was living in DC like less than a year later. So
yeah, DC is one of my favorite cities.
It's just a great place. It's really expensive. Like I don't want to. It's
sugarcoat it. Yeah, no, it's
expensive. Yeah, but it's a great place. I love it.
Yeah. So, when did you know to walk away from that first engagement?
Oh, I knew I knew to walk away from the engagement when my future didn't really feel really right with that person.
Yeah.
Which was all very new. So I had been with my ex at the time for 8 years. I mean, we met in college too. We met on the first day of school at U of M. He was my best friend. We had
I didn't realize y'all had been together for 8 years, Joya.
That's a long time. We met at 18. We were both freshmen at the U of M. And we had a wonderful relationship. We had a great time together. But things kind of changed at the end. And I think that's one kind of hard part of when couples get together so young, and even married couples, when they've gotten together, either high school sweethearts or, met in college, you're still growing, you're still learning yourselves. And I think it was some growing pains there. But it was, whatever the cause, I knew that what I was seeing was not something that I wanted to commit to. And it was very, very scary to walk away from everything. But I think essentially it was a matter of marrying him based on who he has been the past 8 years, or believing him and who he is right now. And that was really the ultimate deciding factor for me. And I think marriage is too important to make that decision based on anything other than who the person is showing you that they are. So, yeah, go ahead.
And who you wanted to be.
For sure. I knew what I wanted in my marriage, not just in my husband, but I knew what I wanted my marriage to feel like. And once I saw that this isn't going in that direction anymore, I knew that I've got to get off this train.
Yeah.
So when going through all of this in society, we talked about this a number of times at our show about the pressures of relationships and the pressures of family. Did you feel like you maybe missed some of the signs before you got engaged, and you thought the engagement would be a band-aid to help you over? It's like, when did you realize this, and did you feel like the engagement was going to maybe help, not change him, or help you guys get over that hurdle?
So I feel like our situation was really unique because I feel like everything went downhill after the engagement, which doesn't normally happen for people. I think you see that scenario that you just listed, or that you just spoke about a lot, where people feel like, well, marriage will help it. And then, well, maybe a baby will help it, but it's always something that they're expecting. But we had a great relationship up until that point. And I think, I don't want to psychoanalyze him. I'm not a psychologist. I can't tell you everything that was going on in his head, but I do think that he was dealing with a lot of societal pressures. And like, as a man, and when you're ready to get married, you're supposed to be making this amount of money, and you're supposed to be able to do this for her, and you're supposed to be able to, and I think he was kind of succumbing to all of the pressures on his end. And I think a lot of that got into his head, and it changed him in some ways, among other things. I won't say that that's the only, thing, but I definitely think he was kind of battling with some pressures of, am I a good enough provider at this time? Am I good enough? Can I be a good husband right now? And I don't think he felt like he could be. And so
right.
Did accordingly.
One thing I want to applaud you for is that you didn't then become submissive to what he couldn't provide, which I feel like happens a ton in women. Like, oh, it's okay. I'm just going to give up the career path that I want because it will make you feel better, and then I'll fulfill my role. Whereas you were like, well, clearly we're not equally yoked, which is what we're called to be.
Absolutely.
And I love that. I love that you didn't back down from who Joya really is.
And I think also the other side of that too, from a man's perspective, is the fact that a lot of guys are afraid of, if I'm not where I need to be, I'm okay if my fiance or wife is. And I want to be cool with her being a little bit more fast paced than me. And we're going to either get there together, or she might always have a leg up on me, and just be okay with that. I feel like a lot of guys fall victim to that, and they're not able to totally understand that it's okay to do that. And so they kind of get defensive, and they kind of shut down, because they're like, I'm not there and she is, and it's not how it's quote unquote supposed to be.
Absolutely. And I think because you all are always told that you're supposed to be the breadwinners, you're supposed to have everything figured out. And so when that's not the case, I think you all feel less than without the woman doing anything, without her making you feel that way at all. And so I think there were some things internally that he was dealing with. And I think for me, that never really mattered because I grew up, seeing different dynamics in my parents' marriage. I grew up for most of my life. My father was by far the breadwinner. And, I saw him do, my mother worked, but my dad was the provider, and he, we were used to that dynamic. And then when my father's company went under, I saw my father, be laid off of a job he worked for 21 years. And I saw my mom be the breadwinner then. So I grew up seeing that finances aren't permanent. This structure isn't always. And so you can't stake your relationship on that. You can't stake your marriage on that. It's got to be on love. That's got to be the foundation and commitment. And so if I saw my mom dip when my dad lost his job or had to figure that would have shaped me differently. I would have been looking for that. And I would have been looking at him like, well, nope, you ain't where you're supposed to be. So we ain't getting married. But that's not what I grew up seeing. And so I saw that in that dynamic. So I wasn't putting that pressure on him, but I think society definitely was.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So how, after you end the engagement, I'm sure everybody was like, excuse me, what?
Absolutely.
And then you've got to deal with that. You're like, now I'm out. I'm going to DC. Then you're like, hey, I now am a free woman in DC. Not that you weren't free before, but you know what I'm saying. And how was it getting back into dating after being engaged?
Ooh, I will say it was a lot easier in DC than it was in Memphis, Tennessee.
Amen.
And not because of anything with Memphis men. I think being with someone for so long, I think the people that know you all together. And so I think several people that I would meet, it was like, oh, you used to be with so-and-so, or I remember you with so-and-so. And so I think that was just awkward for me. And just kind of having to navigate that. I will say that men don't care. They weren't bothered. They're like, we just want you to know we saw y'all. And so they
weren't slowing down the game or anything. They were still going to shoot their shot.
You better believe it. They said Joya is back on the market. Excuse me?
Exactly.
They pulled up right quick. Right quick. She had a line.
I think it was weird for me though, because I think there was a lot of people that I knew through him too. It's like, you all may not be close friends, but I knew you all know each other. You went to high school together. It just was, something I didn't want to deal with. I could have, but I also was feeling like, but where else do I want to be in the world? Like I'm 26 now at that time, I can go wherever. And so when I went to DC, and it wasn't, I didn't even have dating on my mind. So to kind of circle back to your question, I think after coming out of something that was such a long relationship, I wanted to be single, for a while. I wanted time to myself. And some people, I kind of see some people jump from relationship to relationship, but I just, after being in one for so long, and then it ended so, traumatically, I wanted time, and so I looked forward to going to DC as that free woman and just really enjoying and soaking up what all that looked like. So.
Yeah.
I love that.
And one thing I wanted to circle back.
Sorry, I got to go to DC.
No. I want to circle back one thing also that we see in societal and TV shows and social media, all the other nonsense that you see out there. How did you know to end the engagement and to end everything? Because so many times people are like, oh, we'll take a break and we'll get back. How did you just say, like, all right,
let's pause the engagement for now.
We're going to go back to dating. How did you know, like, all right, this is it? Like, this ain't no.
I wish these people could see her facial expression once the podcast.
That's such a good question. I think for me, for one, I've never been the breakup to make up type. And so
Yes.
we didn't,
Yes.
and we didn't, even after being together for 8 years, I think we had maybe broken up once, and it was a real breakup. It was like in that 8 years time, we took one breakup and we didn't see each other, talk to each other, anything for a year, you know, so we had to come back from that. So it was never a back and forth thing. And I think I know God is so real in my life that I really feel like the things he was showing me about our relationship and why it needed to end, the way I was learning these things and the way these things were coming to me, I felt like this is only God doing this. This is only God showing me, literally putting things in my lap, like right after the other. And I just felt like if I ignore these things and if I continue to entertain this, I'm gonna deserve whatever I got coming. Because I just felt like God was being so clear. And so once I was really sure about that, like, okay, it's God separating me. It wasn't hard. It was hard. I don't want to say it wasn't hard, but I was able to trust, like, God, wherever you're taking me, I'm cool to go. Because I knew, and again, back to the what I said earlier about when I knew I needed to leave, I knew what, if I'm going to be married, I know what I wanted to look like and feel like. And I know that God wants that for me too. I didn't have like sinful desires or like, you know, stuff that I wanted in a marriage. I just want to, I want to be treated with respect. I want, commitment. I want loyalty. I want honesty. I wanted the basics, and it's like, I know that that's a part of God's design for a marriage too. So if I wasn't getting that, I knew that, like, God don't want me in this either. And
yes.
Let's just go ahead and get out. But it doesn't make it easy at all. But I felt like I knew God was tapping me on the shoulder, like, this ain't it. And so, and I just knew that the things that I was having issues with, they weren't changing, they weren't changing. And so what am I going to hang around for? There's a lot of life to live.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I love that.
Did you know that I sell makeup? Not only do I sell makeup, but the makeup that I sell is 3D makeup, which allows you to highlight and contour your face in a super simple compact. As a mom, I could not survive without my simplified routine. Not only that, but it's exactly what you need. Exactly when you need it, all in one spot. Go ahead and check out Alanna Mizell on Instagram or alannamizell.com to learn more.
Okay, so another thing that we've discussed on our podcast is the communication amongst friends and parents and your circle. When you're going through all of this, I know clearly you're praying, and we
mean
we
like when you're making a big decision?
we make it. So you make a decision. So
we are big about, like, the people that know about big decisions are right here.
Yeah,
like that's it. And then usually it's our kids that kind of know next.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
And so when you're going through all of this, who was your confidant, or did you just? I know you were talking to God, which is beautiful, but like, did you tell anybody? Or just like you just let it go at one time and everybody was like surprised?
Yeah. So I'm a really private person.
Yes.
To a fault. To a fault. I will say to a fault. And I've gotten less private as I've gotten older, which some people is the opposite, but I've gotten a little less private because I understand that you need people, you need community, you need people in your lives. And so I definitely, and once, I think I didn't share until it got to a point where it's like, I'm pretty sure this is going to end. Because I was also one of those people that's like, I want to protect this, if this is going to work, because, once you tell your mama, once you tell your sibling, you may be cool with them, with your spouse, your partner the next week, but mama ain't forgot. And
mama's standing up at that wedding, right?
Mama's standing at the wedding.
Yeah.
Your besties, they still looking at him crazy. And so I wanted to be sure. So I really didn't tell anybody until I'm like, there's not much more I can ignore. Like, I have to, and because it was we were breaking up in an engagement, it was very tricky because wedding timeline is very real. And so it's like, if I'm gonna stick this out, I got to stick it out because we got engagement pictures next week, and we got to purchase the dresses next month. Like, it was those type of deadlines. And y'all know, I've been married.
Yeah.
Listen, and married weddings in the South, they take that so seriously. So you got to have your venue booked a year in advance.
Yes.
You got to have your so there were a lot of decisions that were needed to be made at the same time where I'm dealing with the hardest thing in my life. Like I'm trying to figure out if this person who I love so much is, if I'm supposed to be with them. So that just sped everything and just made the whole process harder. But once it got down to the wire, I told my mom, who was truly my best friend. And I really sought out older women. So I didn't tell like my closest circle everything, because they're my peers, they may not have the wisdom I think I was looking for, but I talked to women that were around me. Some were my, older coworkers at the time. One was, I think, my boss at the time. And so I think I was just at this place of like, y'all are older than me. Y'all have been through some of these situations. What do I do? Is this something that I need to just put my big girl panties on and deal with? Or is this something? I think I literally, my boss at the time was a woman that I still love and admire to this day. And she unfortunately had been divorced, and I just really trusted her opinion on everything. And so I remember coming to her one day and just said, hey, if you were engaged and experiencing this, and this, would you go through with it? And she just looked me in the face and said, no. And that was also difficult because everyone loved him too. They knew us together. And so I really respect and appreciate the people that told me the truth in love, even though you love him, and you love together. But she said no. And I just think I remember her quick no more than I think all other advice, because that was someone that's been through the heartache, that's been through the divorce lawyer, been through that. And I just really, I didn't want that for myself. And I just think she told me that out of a pure place. But I also talked to women who were the opposite, to your point, Steve, about societal pressures. I talked to women that were like, girl, you're 26. Are you sure you want to start over? I mean, that's a little late. As a 26-year-old. And so I'm feeling like I'm old at this point. And they're like, 26, you need your clock is ticking. You need to be thinking about these things. I wish I was making it up.
I'm like really not surprised either, though.
Yeah.
But like,
it was Tennessee, and it was like, you want to, because in the South, if you're not married by late 20s or 30, they looking at you funny. They're getting concerned. So
they think you're not straight, really, is what's
happening. Something's going on. Something's going on.
People are concerned, and people express that. So I did get some of that. And these were well-meaning people too. But along with my former boss who gave me her good advice, I had talked to a couple women that were like, after the fact, after I made the decision, there were a couple women that were like, I wish I had your courage at your age. I stayed in a relationship that I knew wasn't right, and I regretted it. Either they were divorced or they were still in long marriages. So I just took all of that, and all of that just affirmed that, I'm making the right decision, and life will go on. So.
And when you heard those stories, you pretty much praised hand and said, "Ooh, sis."
It really like encouraged me to like keep it moving, because I didn't want that. I didn't. Right. I grew up with seeing a loving, happy. My parents were married 40 years, and so I grew up seeing them, hugging and kissing and laughing, and I wanted that to be, characteristic of my marriage. And if I wasn't gonna have that, I don't want it. So
right.
I agree with it.
I love it.
So let's call it what it is now. How hard was Thomas's courtship to be your husband right now?
I bet your daddy was like, let me tell you something.
You know what? So it's funny you say that, because I think a lot of people think that, and I'm the youngest and the only girl, so I have 2 brothers. So everyone thinks like, I'm sure whoever they got grilled, but it's really not the case. I remember when Tommy first came to Memphis and met my family, I kind of expected him to be grilled, but he wasn't, because one thing I learned about me even making the decision to end the engagement is that my loved ones, they trust me. And that was kind of the best feeling, and knowing that we're not asking you why, we're not getting in your business, asking all the questions. We trust you. We know you have a good head on your shoulders. And if you made this decision, it was for the right reason. So they didn't give Tommy a hard time. And in terms of our courtship being hard, a lot of people don't know this. So there's probably will be people listening to this and will be surprised, but
Ooh, I can't wait.
we dated and got engaged after 6 months.
That's
That beats us. Yes, ma'am.
How long
Alanna,
We dated for a year and then we're engaged for a year.
Okay, we met at church, and we got engaged after 6 months, but after 4 months we started pre-engagement counseling.
Oh.
So coming from just an awful engagement experience and ending that, and that just being so just terrible and awful, I think I knew that I didn't even want to get engaged again until I knew we were on the same page. And so he felt the same way about, let's, before the proposals, before the googly eyes, before the, we inviting people and setting color schemes, before we get any part of that, like, let's sit down with our pastor, like, let's talk through some of the big things, like, let's talk about, what does marriage even look like for you? And so we wanted to discuss kind of the big things before I even got to the point, and let that discussion help guide us to even know, is this something we want to pursue with each other? And we went into that knowing that, look, if we do this counseling and we decide, it's not us, we're not right for each other, so be it. And that was really helpful for our relationship. We were able to talk about, the big things, kids, career, finances, roles in the marriage. And we were just able to knock those things out before we even got to a proposal. And that was helpful. But start to finish, it was 6 months. And then we got engaged about maybe 8 months after that. And got married about 8 months after that.
And I think I really
That's
applaud
awesome.
I really applaud you and Tommy, because I feel so many times people get into relationships and they, even with you guys being okay with walking away after 4 months, like, if we're not gonna, like, hate to say it, but you waste your time. And one thing Alanna always stresses on our podcast is that time is money, and time is something that you can't get back. So even though we're only 4 months in, we go through this counseling and we realize we are not going to see eye to eye on this. I ain't gonna change you. You ain't gonna change me. So let's just slide.
And last time I checked, I'm expensive. My hourly rate wasted on your butt.
Yeah, exactly.
It's expensive.
Exactly. So
and
it takes courage.
It does. And I think we both wanted, his parents, he grew up in a loving relationship too. So I think we both knew, like, a model. We both saw a model of what we wanted, and we both didn't want to waste time. And I, coming out of an 8-year relationship, one thing I knew, I was like, I'm not going through another 8 years. I know I didn't think it would be 6 months, but I knew I wasn't going to do a long drawn out thing anymore. And I think after ending my first engagement, I was keenly aware of what I didn't want. And so that just made everything else clearer to me. So when I met Tommy, and even before Tommy, and I would date people, and I'm like, nope, I know right away this ain't gonna work, because then I could see the signs, and then I could pick up on the things that I may have missed, in my previous relationship, or I ignored in my previous relationship. But I got really sure about what I wanted, and then when I saw it, we just didn't see the point of wasting time.
I love it.
Yes.
I love that. Yes. I find that so many people are like, right, but it may get better. It's never going to get better.
It doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. And I hear Tommy, he was among the first of his friends to get married. So I always hear him, like, kind of counseling them on the phone and stuff. Because I always hear him say, you have to make this decision for marriage with the mindset, if she never changes, if she is this way forever, if she never does anything, if she doesn't get better, if she doesn't grow, if she's this way forever, will this be okay? You got to make the decision based on that. And that's really what it was for me in making my decision to end the previous engagement. It was like, I know who he's been for all these years, but if who he is right now, if this is all he'll ever be, this is who he remains, is this okay? And it wasn't for me. No. And so you got to make the decision on that.
And then little did you know, Tommy was just waiting.
I had no idea. And to that point, Alanna, I think in order to make that decision, what you were saying earlier too, in order to make the decision to really end it and be done, you've also got to be okay with there not being a Tommy in the future. I think so many people, I just feel like I had to get to a point where I don't want to end this with the hope of, oh, a knight in shining armor that's going to come in and do all these things. That would be wonderful. But I think you got to break knowing that if I'm single for the rest of my life, I know I'm not putting up with this. Well, I know that being by myself is going to be better than this. And like, you got to make the decision based on that, because again, going back to Southern norms and, marriage, and even not just in the South, marriage and relationship is such a big thing. And it makes people feel like, especially women, like your whole life is just getting ready to meet your husband, when that's not true. And there's so much more to your life, and you're going to miss it and waste it if that's all you're thinking about. Now, marriage is beautiful. I think it is one of God's greatest gifts to us, but the reality is not everyone is going to get married, And so I think having the mindset of, only until I get married, or when I get married, I think it's just about like, live your life. If God, if you meet someone and decide to spend your life with them, that's beautiful. But in the meantime, live and enjoy yourself and the people around you. So, yeah.
No, I think that's definitely good. And as we wrap this up, I want to kind of give you the opportunity. So a lot of people through COVID and through just in general, they learn relationship advice from Netflix, or they don't teach you these things in school, and sometimes you don't have somebody to talk to. So if you were to give advice to someone who is trying to figure out a relationship and they just don't know where to go, what would be your piece of advice to say, hey, this is something that I could help you out with, or about your little tidbit?
So there's a couple of things. I'll get to this in a minute. But so as I said, I grew up with just a really beautiful, loving example of my parents. I really wanted a marriage that was really similar to theirs. I grew up with a lot of laughter and, again, hugging and hand holding, matching outfits. I grew up with all the corniness, and I was like, I want that. But I know that that's not the reality for a lot of people. A lot of people don't, they've never seen, a functional, loving relationship in the home, or didn't grow up with one, and it's not their fault, but I think if in the absence of that, and even if you did grow up with that, I think reaching out to people, talking to people who do seem to have, a good relationship. No one's relationship is perfect, but I do think it's so much value in getting wisdom from older people. And so we definitely did that in our courting period. We talked to our parents, we talked to other couples in our church. We went out to dinner with people, and it's like, how do y'all do this? How do y'all last this long? We were asking those questions. And then I grabbed this book because Tim Keller's The Meaning of Marriage.
Yes.
It has marriage on there, but it's so good, I think, for singles too. It just really breaks down like, look, this is what you're getting into. So like, sure about it, and go into relationships with this thinking. I think it just does a great job of kind of shaping that. So read that book. I love it. There's so many things. So relationship books, and not even just this book, the Bible. I mean, I think the best blueprint for, getting ready for a relationship, or being a partner in a relationship, is to start by treating your partner the way God tells us to treat everybody, like with humility and just and patience, and treat them lovingly. And it's so much easier said than done, but I think that is just a good guide for how to be a good partner to somebody. So that's my favorite guidance, and we often have to refer back to that and remember like how God told us to be with each other. But also there's lots of books, the 5 love languages. I mean, figure out what your partner needs and wants and how they receive love. I think we are still, unpacking the beauty of that book too, and like, hey, like the way that I show love may not be the way that you receive it. And that is often the source of so much tension in relationships, just learning how to love each other. So just all those things, but I think the help is out there. I think another thing, I love watching the show Black Love on.
Yes.
I love the authenticity of the show. I love just the real stories. So I think just talking to people, reading the books, just finding the information that you don't know, because nobody has it figured out. Nobody's relationship is perfect, but there's help out there, and there's people that can tell you, this is what we did, these are the mistakes we made. And this is how you can kind of get around them. So
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
think that is
I
awesome.
love that.
And
We actually read that book during our engagement.
Yes,
Yeah.
we did.
Yeah.
We did.
Meaning of Marriage.
Yes.
Oh,
So
nice.
good. It's so
It's
good.
really, really good.
And
Mhm.
so we definitely appreciate you and your time. And if the schedule allows, I think we actually might be in DC this fall. And so we
For a
will
football game.
we're gonna
Mhm.
come for a football game.
Listen, whatever y'all need, we can go to dinner. Just let us know. We would
If I don't meet this Tommy,
Yeah, I think
who actually landed Joya, formerly Smith, I mean, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I think you seeing you is going to be just as important as going to a game. So we're
I
definitely
may skip the game.
you might skip the game. I'm going to have to go to the game. But no, we like I said, we'll definitely let you know if when we plan that trip.
Oh, we would love it. And Alanna, you got to see the new kitchen. Got to see
I
that
gotta,
little bar.
I gotta see the whole thing. Who
Let's
am I
go.
kidding? I love it. I love it. Well, Joya, thank you.
We appreciate
I'm so
you.
grateful for you.
Thank you. No, and thank you all. Your this platform is so it's perfect. You all's, relationship and friendship is it's so obvious. And I love seeing just young couples in love and just talking about it and showing that it's a thing and that, it's attainable. So
Yes.
kudos to you all for
Yes.
having
We
me.
appreciate you.
Love
Thank
you. Love you.
Thank you. Bye. Talk
Bye.
soon.
Bye.
So if you guys are enjoying this, definitely leave us a review. Give us the feedback. If there's something you guys want us to talk about, reach out to us on our website at themizellshow.com. There is a contact section. You can put it in there. We would love to hear about it. Or you can always go over to Instagram at The Mizell Show. Also, as always, don't forget to screenshot this episode and just add it to your stories and tag us on Instagram, on Facebook at The Mizell Show. Thanks, guys. Are you loving The Mizell Show? Well, we love you all. And did you know that you can have me and Steven talk to your team or a group of 25 of your friends? All it takes is 25 people showing up on either a Zoom call, a Facebook Live, or really anywhere. Hopefully in person sooner rather than later. But how do you get us? So all you have to do is email themizellshow@gmail.com, or you can direct message us on Instagram at The Mizell Show.